as you step onto confidence, think about times when you have been confident. What goes on? How do you speak to yourself? How do you stand? How do you sit? And generally people will grow a couple of inches. Their voice and their tone of voice will change. And then step onto the next post-it that you want. Energy. What does energy look like? And let's just pretend that you're energetic. And in doing that, your breathing changes, your whole mindset changes, and you create new links in your brain to become more of that, more of the time. And resilience is a great one in business. You know, we are talking about business strategies of success for 2021. The description that I love about resilience is the result of how you recharge, not how you endure. So how are you recharging? Are you doing, as Tim and Graham has mentioned, doom scrolling? I'm loving that word. Are you wasting your time looking at stuff that is irrelevant and not leading you to success because it's not focused and targeted? So how do you recharge? Well, taking a breath is one of the simplest ways of recharging. And there are many ways of breathing. We do it hopefully all the time. And as you're sitting there relaxed in your home, you're probably feeling quite relaxed and the breathing is quite mellow. But just look at your body language, because our bodies and our minds are intrinsically linked. So by sitting up and breathing down, not in your chest, but breathing right the way down into your diaphragm, that can make a massive difference. And I know that if I'm on a call and I have allowed someone to affect me in a phone call, when I put the phone down, I will take 10 purposeful breaths. And I call them box breathing. I think it's a phrase that I've heard other people talk about. And basically, box breathing is when you breathe in for 4, you then hold it for 4, you then breathe out for 4, and you hold no breathing for 4. And I just do 10 squares of breathing. Now, when I was first taught it, I was told to breathe for 10. I had to count very, very fast. I now use 4, you work out what is right for you. But the whole point is that you spend 10 breaths just re-centering yourself, and then ask yourself the question again, where do I want my focus to be? And good luck. Over to you.
Gabby. Thanks, Gabby. Doom scrolling. I think that's almost the negative word of the. I've got loads of notes down here, which is absolutely fantastic. By the way, every time I say the word stuff, my mentor says I have to put £5 into the food bank. So I'm being really careful. You said it, Gabby. I didn't say it anymore. So one thing. Patricia Fripp sent me an article from the Harvard Business School last week, a long article, they always are, but it said one thing which I took away, which is brilliant, and I've used it. It said, if you're feeling anxious about something, change the word to excited and see how you react to it. And I read the whole article, I came back to that as the highlight, and it works. It's interesting how language changes your state, which is what you were talking about. Absolutely, yeah, terrific. Thanks very much for that. And I know you're flying to Gibraltar on Sunday. That is one of the most dangerous airports in the world. I had to do a bit of breathing as we come in over the Mediterranean Ocean with the wind blowing in all sorts of directions around the rock. Yeah, I needed a big, large beer from Godfrey after I'd done that. My pal Godfrey, who's on here. Now we turn to Graham Jones. Let me tell you a little interesting fact about Graham. He used to be a newspaper and magazine columnist. That's why his newsletter's so interesting, which comes out on a Saturday morning. In fact, for a time, he wrote a very popular column for a woman's magazine. Now, I've been asking him for a long time what that column was all about, but he will never tell me what the subject of it was. Welcome back, Graham.
Thanks, Derek. Maybe one day I'll tell you what it was about. It's interesting, isn't it? We've heard a lot about pausing and thinking and, you know, breathing to change our state and all of those kind of things. And one thing we can be sure of is that whatever has happened in the last year, the coming year ahead is not going to be the same as it was 2 years ago. We've all heard the horrible phrase of new normal and things like that. But actually, if you think about, had we done this just a year ago, we would probably have worked out how could we get people all together in a room. And we would have had, you know, 500 people at an event, and we'd have done it live. And you know, particularly the speakers who are on here know that they're being asked by their clients to do lots more online using this kind of technology. And that's going to happen increasingly. Big companies have already said, so Microsoft, Google, Starbucks are amongst the big corporates in the world who have said home working is not just for COVID, it is now permanent. It isn't that they are just saying, well, we'll do this till April next year, or we'll do it for a few more months. They've now said you can carry on doing this forever. If you want to work from home, work from home. Now, there are lots of psychological problems with that. Of course, you might get anxiety because you're not socializing with people. But I think there's a couple of interesting things that business hasn't really thought about. You know that when you've walked down the street, you have suddenly thought, somebody is looking at me. You've no idea, but you just get that thought that somebody is behind you, looking at you. You haven't heard them, and you turn round, and sure enough, there's somebody looking at you. How did you know? Have you got eyes in the back of your head? I've often thought for a long time that we actually don't really know all about the human body. In fact, we're discovering new things all the time. Some of the research that we've produced vaccines for COVID at the moment is based on brand new information about the way genetics works. And so we're able to produce those vaccines because the research on that is really brand new. So we're discovering things all the time. I've often wondered, is there a sense organ that we don't yet know about? For example, your brain produces electricity. It produces electromagnetic radiation. We can measure it at a distance from your head. So could it be possible that there is some kind of receptor in our skin that is receiving electromagnetic radiation from other people, and that's how you discover that they're behind you? It's a possibility. We now know from neuroscience, in research conducted just this year, that we can indeed transmit from one brain to another when those brains are relatively close to each other. So something's going on with the physicality of people that we're not going to get when we are separated by the internet. One interesting piece of research conducted a few years ago, but which is going to be revealing for the new normal, is that when you ask a group of people to independently come up with a set of ideas, they can produce a list of ideas. You give them a topic, they can produce that list of ideas. And when you put them together, but you do not allow them to communicate with anyone, they produce more ideas when they're in the same physical space as other people than when they're not in the physical space with other people. They're not talking to each other. They're not sharing ideas. They're just together in a room with other people, and they produce more ideas than when they're doing that when they're not in the room with other people. So the physical nature of being together with other people is actually really beneficial to us. We don't know why. There's lots of things to explore. It's really interesting to try and find out. But in this new normal, when we're all at home, we're going to produce fewer ideas. That's bad for business. We're already at low productivity, as I said earlier. The Bank of England produced a report 18 months ago, which showed that all of the data about poor financial performance in the UK, they were able to link directly to the increased use of mobile phones. So the Bank of England has produced a report showing that the poor financial performance in countries is as a result of the use of mobile phones. If we stopped using mobile phones, our financial performance would be better, according to the Bank of England's data. And so we're going to be separated. We're already in a position where we need to produce more ideas. We're going to produce fewer ideas. One of the interesting things that Starbucks recently said is that what they want to do is introduce the concept in their offices called hoteling. And that's where you get together. So rather than all working apart, they turn their offices into spaces where people get together to share ideas, to generate ideas, or just to be around other people, because you need those other people around you. So for benefits of business, that's a really interesting idea. Just down the road from me, there's a pub that was obviously had been in lockdown, not able to produce money. That's now a place where local business people meet to generate ideas. So get together with other people, switch off the internet, unplug your mobile phone, let the battery run out, and you will produce more ideas for your business.
Thanks, Graham. I got told off once on a seminar for saying I'm coming out with a few wacky ideas. You certainly came out with a few wacky ideas there. So I'm even more careful with what I say these days. Now it's my privilege to introduce Patricia Fripp once again. And let me tell you that Patricia's brother, rock guitarist Robert Fripp, voted the 44th most successful rock guitarist ever from King Crimson, said to me when I drove Patricia to, as I'm her unpaid chauffeur when she's in the UK and she spends her life coaching me when I'm driving. When I met him in Pershore, he said to me, "I'm not surprised my sister gets paid to tell people what to do. She was a very bossy girl." Now, Patricia will probably never speak to me again for mentioning that, but over to you, Patricia.
Well, no, my brother is quite, yes, he says that lovingly, of course, but it's very true. So my third idea for you, and this is especially if you are in business, tell stories about happy, satisfied clients. When I coach my clients on sales presentations, very often they follow a formula. Hi, I'm John Smith. I come from this company. We've been in business for this long. This is what we do, our unique methodology. This is who we work for, and we'd like to work for you. Nobody cares. So I encourage my clients to structure this sales conversations and presentations around the interests, the challenges, or the opportunities for their clients, depending on what word that they use. And then throughout their presentation, when it's appropriate, tell a story about a satisfied client that had the same challenge or opportunity. However, there is a formula to follow. And that would be the situation. The first is the situation. And here I always say, imagine when you first met your prospect that they said help and could clearly articulate their problem. Now, in reality, as you know, what usually happens before a sales professional talks to their prospect, there might have been months of internal sales following up from trade shows, etc. A story has to be true, not 100% accurate, because stories shrink time. That's why imagine they said help and articulated the problem. Then the next stage is the solution. And this is where you might say, Tim, this is very much like our client, John Smith. And what we did with his company is what we recommend with yours. It is our 3-step process of. So the help, the situation is in the words of your prospects. The solution is you talking through what you did for them that would match for this client. And then the third part, and this is very important, it's what I call the happy ever after, the success. And this is when you say, if Tim were here, he would tell you, I would not have believed it possible that you could deliver this under price on time. And the importance of using the words of your happy client is that you can say about yourself what it would be difficult to say yourself. Most of us, now, Tim and I are always telling our British friends they have to get more American to be more, I won't say braggadocious, but to talk up their credentials. But that is what you can do when you use the words of your happy clients. Situation, solution, success. And with that, now it is my pleasure to introduce Derek, our host. And this is to give you hope. I began my career at 15 as a hairstyling apprentice. And I have done quite well in my 2 areas of endeavor, hairstyling and speaking and training. Derek, as you know, is a best-selling author and very much in demand as a consultant, coach, and speaker. However, when he was 16, he was asked to leave school because they didn't think he was smart enough to continue his education, even though he ended up with a very impressive position at Barclays Bank. So to talk about the psychology of influencing, over to you, Derek.
Patricia, thanks very much. And yeah, we're heading towards the last speaker, that's me. And I just wanted to talk to you about how the psychology of influence fits into negotiation. Actually, it fits into everything you do. I traveled to Denver to see Robert Cialdini, the world famous psychologist on influencing at the speaking convention. And he absolutely blew me away. I've been listening to him. I've been reading his books for 20 years. But I just wanted to explain to you and talk to you about how I bring in his traits of influencing, and just 4 of them today. So the first thing Cialdini said was, does the person like you or not? Because if they don't like you, then they're not going to do business with you and you're not going to influence them. Now, that is so fundamental that when I show that to people on my masterclasses, they go, well, that's obvious. I say, yeah, it's obvious, but I don't see too many people all the time getting into the other person's world, understanding where they're coming from, building rapport and connected to them. And when I did my NLP training, I realized that building rapport was the first tenet of NLP, and liking was the first tenet of Cialdini. Now, that's a coincidence. So if you don't invest time getting the person to like you, building rapport with them, you're not going to get past go and move on to anything else. So that is the first thing, and you need to stop, do what Gabby said, take a breath, plan how you're going to get them to like you. So how are you going to do it? Are you going to take them a gift? Are you going to pour the coffee? Are you going to mirror and match their body language? Are you going to dress like them? Are you going to do all the little things that make a massive difference? Second thing Cialdini said was that if you give something to someone for no charge, they'll feel obligated in their unconscious mind to give you something back. And those 2 things bear no resemblance to the cost of either item. So buying someone a coffee, they call me the Starbucks negotiator. Why Starbucks? Because it's great to do it on neutral ground. No one's threatened. Starbucks have round tables, and I buy the coffee. And if they try and buy the coffee, my money's out first, and I'm buying the coffee. So think about what you can give to your clients, which are complementary, and that can be just friendship, remembering their names, keeping a record of various different things that they've done. Keep your magic book, whatever you call it, your journal, with all those details in, because when you meet them in 2 or 3 years' time, wouldn't it be great to remember the names of their kids, their family, where they've been on holiday, etc., etc. And it doesn't have to be money. I've received about 15 Christmas cards, and the odd thing I think is they're just signed by people that I haven't seen for a year. There's no information in there. No one's asking anything about me. And those horrible little letters you get in those Christmas cards sometimes is all about telling you what a fabulous life they've had and nothing about you. The most important person in the world is you, that person. Number 3 is authority, and we've dressed up today, haven't we, Tim and I? And you can always dress down, but you can never dress up. So if the other person's dressed down like Graham, you can very quickly take your jacket and your tie off and be a little bit more like them. I've never bought a brown shirt in my life, Graham, so I'm afraid I can't match you there. But the key issue with authority is people believe people in authority. That is why policemen dress up like they do, why airline pilots, to give you confidence, dress with a uniform on. And that's why, certainly in the UK, security guards at supermarkets, etc., dress with a uniform on, because that stops shoplifting more than anything else. So how do you come across with authority? And think about, does your website, do your books, whatever you do, do you come across as authority? In the UK 10 years ago, men used to judge another man by the car they drove. So, I mean, that's a pretty sad statistic, but it's an absolutely true one. And if people are judging people in split seconds, make sure you deal with that. And the final one I'm going to talk about today is scarcity. People want things that they might miss out on. People are scared to miss out. In the UK, there's a statistic which says that 80% of what we've got in our wardrobe, we never wear. And we probably bought it because there was a sale on. Sale ends today. What a negotiating tactic that is. There's a kitchen firm in the UK called Magnet, and their sale always ends on a Sunday, and a bed shop where their sale always ends on a Tuesday. It's always back on the next day. But people believe those things. So what are you doing is scarce. So I usually say, well, I'm booked up next year, and I fill my diary up with golf, swimming, and all the various things, so that I can say it's pretty difficult to get in my diary. How much did you say you had in your budget for a speaker? So you can always ask difficult questions by dropping your voice tonality, etc., etc. And there's a number of other things that Robert Giordini mentioned, and we will be covering that on the next seminar, if there is one. Well, I think there will be. In fact, the Brit for the Brits, Graham, Gabby and I are going to hold a seminar in London, we hope, if we're allowed to travel in the new year. Thank you. Liking, reciprocity, authority, scarcity, and the other 2 are social proof and commitment, which we'll talk about another time. But sadly, we're out of time. Paul, I think you've got a poll question for us.
Absolutely. That is up on your screen now. If we did another session, would you attend, or would you attend and also share it with your friends?
Derek, a number of people have asked for the name of the author that you referenced, Cialdini. Is that going to be in the show notes, or can you help them
we'll
now?
Put it in the show notes. I've written a chapter in Win-Win about it with Giordini's and the author's permission. but it's Robert Cialdini, Cialdini. He's written a number of books, but you want the simplest one that explains those 6 traits, and they should be in anything that that you do. While the poll's coming in, we do promise to answer all of your questions. And if we can't do it while the recording's on, which will end in a couple of minutes' time, we will stay on and answer questions if you can do that. Or alternatively, we will answer the questions in the chat box if you send us an email, etc.
What we will do, we will answer the questions in email if we can't answer them live. So perhaps we'll see if the poll is probably nearly at the end, but Paul, if there are any 1 or 2 questions that we should handle now before we formally conclude the meeting, and we will stay in for a little bit longer, but we do understand in America this is Monday morning and hundreds of people have given us 90 minutes of their time.
All right, well, we do have a few comments. Love that you quoted Viktor Frankl's work to Tim. Janice Litvin also on a personal note said, Tim, her father was a meat packer in Houston, since you are a barbecue judge. For Derek, I think this applies to a lot of you. What if you offer a price for 3 sessions and the client doesn't challenge the price, but then says they can only afford 1? How do you recover from that?
Well, I think what you do there, Paul, is you try and get them on Zoom again, and you talk to them and you ask them, and then of course you would not price 1 seminar up for 1/3 of the price of the whole one. That's a different issue at all. It's okay to giving discounts for more than 1 and work that out, but be careful on the discount. But you would certainly want to talk to them and say, for 1 seminar, I've still got to do the same sort of research, work, etc. So that would be X. Happy to have a conversation with anybody about any particular circumstances. But the real trick with these sort of negotiations is don't get pushed into a corner at the time. Hold off, put the phone down, call them back, email reply tomorrow morning, because when we're tired, we don't give the right answer and we might jump in with the wrong price. One of my speakers on the chat show I do on a Monday night, a guy called Norman Beck, who's coming on very shortly, told me a metaphor. He said, always negotiate in a round room. And I thought, what does that mean? And he said, never put yourself in a corner.
Very clever.
God, I haven't met the guy yet, Tim, but you're going to introduce me to him. What a fabulous
very interesting, possibly the most interesting man in the world kind of person. Yeah.
Patricia, do I need to close now and just wrap it up?
Well, yes. So 51% of our attendees that are with us live, we do understand that we have some people will just be watching this as a replay, would attend again if we delivered another, and 49% would recommend to their friends as well. So if you would like to deliver your concluding remarks, we will turn off the recording and we will stay in for a few minutes and then we can answer any questions, and we will let people speak. Paul has that power.
Well, thanks, Patricia. I just want to say a few thank yous. First of all, to all the people that have attended the seminar, have the information from our newsletters. We've got quite a lot of information from you that we can use. A big thank you to my special guests who I rang up and twisted their arm to come on this, use my persuasion skills, and I will do that again if there's enough demand. Mention them personally, Patricia Fripp, it's the morning in California, who also offered her back end of webinar, and Paul Griffin, big thank you to Paul, who works with Patricia. To Tim Durkin in sunny, hot and big Texas, the barbecue expert, and to Graham Jones, the lecturer who is looking at the government's budgets for universities, and Gabrielle Gachet, who is flying into Gibraltar to do some NLP with the apes, which is absolutely fantastic. So thanks to you all. Thanks for being very kind and listening to my persuasion skills to get you to join. And thanks to you all that follow us on LinkedIn. Oh, it'd be a great idea if you wanted to follow us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you on social media. And it's been a pleasure and a delight to share our tips with you. Have a fantastic holiday. Have a fantastic 2021. Change happens. And if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Thanks from all of us, and have a lovely week. Now we're staying on.